I can't think of one thing where I look at Jimmy Dore and I can say, that's the guy who knows a lot about insert blank. There is nothing. The Jimmy Dore left, which
Can I
think you would call
gotta ask you, did you see the Sitch and Adam interview with Jimmy Dore? The interview debate. Did you see I posted a clip of it on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it there or saw it from somewhere else. But Jimmy Dore immediately, when asked to substantiate any proof whatsoever that the CIA conducted a coup in Ukraine in 2014, when he's talking about the Euromaidan, when asked to provide any evidence, he immediately just says, I don't want to debate that, and he just leaves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and Sitch and what's his Sitch and
Adam.
Sitch and Adam. I was on their show once with Lance from the Surfs. Sitch and Adam, they wouldn't consider themselves to be right wing, but they're definitely right wing. I mean, they're not maybe like far right, but they are right wing. Like even from a right wing perspective, just asking Jimmy Dore, for just to back up his claim, and Jimmy Dore would interact with people who would have been probably sympathetic with whatever he gave them. He
doesn't like being fact checked.
He just didn't have anything to give them at all. He could have just, even if he had the smallest of background. Because listen, I could guarantee that there are people who believe that, and like I'm sure if you ask like friggin' what's his face from the Gray Zone, I'm sure he'll give you
Aaron Mate or something.
Yeah, Aaron Mate.
Ben Norton, any of those guys.
Well, Ben Norton's actually not. I wouldn't put Ben Norton in the same category. He left the Gray Zone because he didn't like where they were going.
Really?
Yes, he did.
What specific thing did he not like that they were going in the direction of?
The COVID stuff that what's his face was getting involved in. That was when he had enough.
Man, it's just really hard after Syria. Gray Zone contributed to so much misinformation about the Syrian civil war.
I listen, I will say like absolutely, and you could definitely like criticize him for that, but I'm familiar with all their work, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Ben Norton. Ben Norton, while there was some overlap, he's definitely not in the same grouping. Okay. And you could definitely criticize his positions where he lined up, but definitely not the same. But like even Aaron Mate would have a list of things. Again, you could probably poke holes in them and argue with him about it, but he would have had something. He would have been expecting it, I'm sure. The fact that Jimmy Dore could not even give anything, I don't even think it's just that he doesn't want to argue about it. I think he's just so not even misinformed. He's just so uneducated. Like he does the bare minimum. He doesn't know anything about what
I got a Jimmy Dore story
talks about on his show. Like he just regurgitates what he thinks his audience wants to hear. He realizes he's getting a larger audience by saying certain things, and so he continues to do that. He has no background in any of this stuff. Nothing is his specialty. I've never heard him on any topic where it was like, oh, this is something Jimmy Dore is like, this is his thing, this is his beat. Like, listen, there are areas I know shit about, and I have guests on to talk to them about, and I sit there and I learn. But I also know my bread and butter. I know the areas where I am an expert on. I can talk with you day and night, 24/7, nonstop about these areas, and I'm good to go. I can't think of one thing where I look at Jimmy Dore and I can say, that's the guy who knows a lot about insert blank. There is nothing.
I got a really good Jimmy Dore story that just talked about how uneducated he is. Now, Jimmy Dore made a lot of claims about Syria. A lot of claims when it came to gas attacks and documents from organizations. He went really far down in there, right? Now, if you're going to start making allegations that war crimes that occurred didn't happen, right? I would assume you would do a proper amount of research about the war that you're making this accusation about. Like if you were going to doubt anything that happened in, say, any war, if you were going to be a revisionist on any conflict and say this historical event that people claim happened is fake, you should probably be pretty studied up on that conflict. I think you would agree with me, correct, Matt? Right? You should be the basic amount. So after he'd already published like 25 videos on Syria, he does a video. I think it was talking about the war, and in this video he's like, "Yo, did you know there's like these Kurdish fighters in like northeastern Syria that are like fighting ISIS. Have you heard about the YPG? I didn't know about these people. We have stuff over there. What do you mean we have stuff over there? He had no clue. He had no clue about the YPG, the YPJ, or some of the basic fundamental like people involved in organizations and groups involved in the war. Yet he was making accusations about war crimes he didn't think occurred and about schemes that happened that he's accusing of these conspiracies for taking place, but he doesn't know the basic facts of it. This would like me being denying Pearl Harbor happened, and then I asked who's Japan. It doesn't make any sense that he would not know this if he did his studying on the issue, which is why I feel like he almost like just has somebody else get him his resources, like what happened with the staffer that one time who edited that article that he ended up using in one of his news segments. I think maybe it's because staffers get him everything he does, or he just like scrolls on Twitter, finds whatever, and then just regurgitates whatever he has on Twitter. But he doesn't do really any research into foreign policy whatsoever.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know anything about anything. Again, I can't think of any topic that Jimmy Dore is an expert on. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah, I don't know. Someone just said he's lazy. He says take it easy. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But you also think that over the years you would at least develop some sort of knowledge, even just from the lazy little bit you do because you're too lazy, just from talking about it on your show. Like what did Sitchin Adam ask him for again? Run it by me again. Oh, hello?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah. What did Sitchin Adam ask him for again?
Sitchin Adam asked him for any evidence that the coup in Ukraine was done by the CIA. So
what my point here with using that is he is definitely, without a doubt, talked about that on his show. I'm not even saying he brought it. I'm not even saying he prepared the segment and brought it up. I'm saying he had a guest on to do all the work, but he at least was sitting there ostensibly listening to what his guest was saying. He couldn't just regurgitate what he previously heard someone else say on his show. My guess is he's not even paying attention. He's not even paying attention to what they're saying. He just sits there, lets them sputter, and then he knows, he sees number go up, money go up, revenue go up, and he goes, oh, more of that.
I think he kind of like dips his toe in topics a bit to see how his audience reacts to it, to see how much it gets, and then he'll see like, oh, it gets a hook. Like I think that's what happened with COVID with him, because he was publishing stories about COVID every day about any number of topics about COVID, and it was never like, hey, they did a test and it looks like this vaccine actually works. You know, I think it was never anything like that. It was always like, here's how the doctors are lying to you. Here's how they're trying to, they're scheming. They're going against you. Untested. It was always something along the lines of that. It was never would just catch people's eye and also serve the general narrative he's wanting to create. You don't need to have all the facts in order. You just need a general narrative to craft, something to kind of shovel on what you already believe. And I think that's what he generally does with topics, that he just kind of grabs whatever he can find on Twitter, throws it up, or just has other people say what he'll have people on, and they'll just say what he believes for him. And then he'll just repeat their talking points afterwards. But if you get anywhere deeper than even the most basic of surface level conversations about a foreign policy issue, he collapses. I think one of the greatest examples of this would be Sam Cedars' debate with Jimmy Dore way back in the day over the Supreme Court, and the fact that if Donald Trump wins, 3 Supreme Court nominations could come in, and he said it is more likely for a moon to go into Lake Michigan than for Republicans to get 3 Supreme Court nominations. And then Republicans proceed to get 3 Supreme Court nominations, and I've been watching the moon ever since.
I cannot believe that clip hasn't been like, I got to do it. So, or someone do that for me. Someone listening, how that clip isn't literally filling up Jimmy Dore's Twitter replies every time he tweets something out is beyond me. If I projected something that, in his estimation, so over the top ridiculous, and then it came true immediately after,
to the T, the exact number he said.
The exact number, yes, the exact number. I mean, it just goes to show there's no justice in this world. Career should be over after saying something like that and then it happening. It should be done. I make projections all the time about things that happen, and guess what? I usually make those projections on things I'm knowledgeable about, and I'm right or get very close to being exactly right. And the things that I don't know anything about, I don't make projections because it'd be ridiculous to do that, because when I get it wrong, it'll be egg in my face. The fact that he went ahead and did that and has not suffered any consequences, in fact, just got more popular, is a real very sad that that's the world we live in, but also B, like, we're all dropping the ball but not making sure that that clip is all over his feed every time he says something.
Absolutely, but there's like a million. The thing that I hate the most is about like people who engage in a lot of conspiracy, because I'm a very anti-conspiratorial person. Conspiracies exist, but they're very rare and few and far in between, and there's not nearly as many that are as alleged, right? And there's a conspiracy about everything these days. And the things that I really don't like about conspiratorial people, whether it be Alex Jones, whether it be Jimmy Dore, whether it be any of these conspiratorial types, is they'll get things wrong constantly. And I mean constantly. Alex Jones said that actually this year, China was going to invade Taiwan. So by the end of this year, I'm like, I'm waiting. It hasn't happened. And like these types of predictions like happen again and again and again and again and again. And they keep getting it wrong, but there's never any repercussions. There's never any like, we're going to take a step back and reflect, and we're going to maybe change, or like loss of viewership. That doesn't happen. And yet I see so many of these conspiratorial people, anytime CNN gets something wrong and then they immediately fire the guy or like suspend the guy, they'll go crazy. Like, look at the line mainstream media that AP did this, CNN did this, and they'll go crazy. They'll do like a 20-minute news segment. But then if they get something wrong, 99% of the time, they never even address it. They never even go back to reflect upon the fact that they got that information wrong. Like, never.
Yeah, of course they don't. They'll never do that, because then they would be showing their ass, really. I mean, for me personally, like, I take great care in if I get something wrong, in terms of like, I report something, more information comes out and facts change. I owe it to my audience to let them know, oh, the information has changed. I'm issuing a correction. I mean, I do it regularly when it's necessary. I'm very careful so that doesn't happen too much. I wait for things to come out and for us to know everything. But the few times where it's happened, right away, that's the important part of doing this job. I mean, maybe the problem is I take my job very seriously, and I do feel like, I have a small audience compared to these other people we're talking about, but I think I owe it to them to make sure they always are well informed. What an asshole I am, what a dumbass I am for thinking that's what the people want, apparently. Yeah,
fool.
I mean,
yeah, I think one of the main problems with the left right now, I think in politics generally, is how much people engage in conspiracy. I feel like everybody has decided to like imbue themselves as a medical expert, and like an expert in construction when it comes to 9/11, an expert in medical things when it comes to vaccine. I think one of the worst things in politics today is just we almost live in like a post-truth society. You can just choose your own truth, and it can be as wild and as crazy as you want. So if you want to live in a Tom Clancy novel because your life's boring as fuck, you can do that. And that's what Alex Jones viewers do every week, and that's what Jimmy Dore viewers do every week. And so I really feel like that's a poison. It's just this, you need to give, whoever gives the best narrative gets the most viewership. It doesn't really matter if the narrative's correct or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's spot on.